full disclosure, you don't have any suicidal thoughts.
I want to make it very clear, and I make it clear on absolutely every single podcast, I would never kill myself. I don't care what they say. I don't care what video they show you. Never under any circumstance would I kill myself. It's haram. Never. I don't care if they put me back in the dungeon, solitary confinement by myself for the rest of my human years. I would never kill myself, ever, ever. So if that ever happens, God forbid, do not believe whatever garbage they tell you. The chance of me killing myself is precisely zero.
And you had this complete level of certainty that this is exactly how it would play out. You've said this on umpteen podcasts that this is their agenda.
They have to damage my influence. They have to damage my influence. They can't sit there and let me be influential because I'm saying things that they don't like me saying. And there are people sitting around going, he's saying things counter to our message and counter to our narrative. Get rid of him. And they have a pretty standardized playbook. And this is probably one of the first times in history where their playbook just isn't working. Cancel him. Well, he's still around. Oh, well, lie about him in the news. Just say he touches chicks. Well, no one believes it. Oh, all the comments are on his side. Everyone's calling us liars. Okay, then do it again. Then do it again. Make up a new girl. Then do it again. Find someone else. Yeah. And they keep attacking me with the same weapons, but the bullets are bouncing off. And that doesn't give me a sense of calm. That doesn't make me think, ha ha ha, I'm invincible. It makes me think, uh-oh. It makes me think, uh-oh, because human life is cheap at the top. It's very cheap.
Does it make you want to sit on the sidelines and be quiet and just kind of live a life with your family, your kids? Does it make you want to do that? Maybe all these attention is actually not a good thing.
It's interesting because sometimes I analyze myself and think, why don't I just do that? Why don't I just disappear? You know, I don't need money. I don't need fame. Why don't I just disappear? And then you have to, I was saying this to my brother, and he was like, well, Genghis Khan didn't need Vienna. Some people are just wired that way. Like, Vienna's a long way from Kathmandu. Sometimes that's just the way it is, or Ulaanbaatar, I apologize, the capital of Mongolia. That's just the way some people are. If I see injustice, and if I see things which I believe to be false, I feel like I am obligated to say the truth. I can't explain why, even if at my own detriment. What am I doing this for? Like, it's to the detriment of my life. And I've had these conversations at length with the people close to me, and we're all saying the same thing. It's always been the same way. Humanity's always been the same way. There's been a select, small, few good men up against evil, and evil always outnumbers you. Evil always has more money than you. They always have more power and more influence than you. If you play any video game, when you get to the end boss, he always has more life than you. He always has more hit points, but you're the good guy. And it's kind of like, it's never been any different. At any point in human history, there's been the good guys up against the forces of evil, whatever they were of the time. And you've always been outnumbered, and you've always been supposed to lose.
So you consider yourself the good guy in this situation?
I think that truth is instilled by God in all of us, and I think if you tell the truth, you're a good person.
So who do you think is the bad guy? You know, everyone uses they, them, they're after me. Who's they? Who's the bad guy?
Well, instead of saying who, what I will start by saying is what they do. And what they do is they control information. And we now live in an information society, and by controlling information, they control how people think and act and react to things. That's all they have to do. They have to control information, and they have to be very selective with what they allow you to talk about and what they allow you to discuss and what they don't. And once they can do that, they can keep you bickering about garbage, and they can control the sensitive information, and then they run the world. So having all the information controlled and having this hard barrier on what can be discussed, that's how they can purport absolute fallacies. I think now it's been a couple years, we can probably talk about it. They psyoped the world into believing they should be afraid of the common cold. They psyoped the world into this. And if you think about how difficult that would be to do, how difficult would it be to psyop the entire population of Earth? Well, what you do is you just lie on repeat, and you don't allow anyone to say anything counter to it without hurting them the same way I've been hurt. And you just psyop them. It's actually amazing because now I use that exact same psyop on people. I love it. I love it. So when I sit with someone who's not matrix-minded, when I sit with someone who is matrix-minded, like when the BBC walked in here, I'm like, do you all have your vaccinations? Social distancing.
Did you actually?
100%. Social distancing, please. And they look at me like I'm crazy. Well, how am I crazy? 2 years ago, you were telling me to do this. Now when I repeat your own worldview to you, I'm crazy. Well, if I'm crazy, guess what? You're a fucking liar because you lied the whole time. So either you're a liar or I'm not. You know, how could I be nuts? Put your fucking mask on. If I ever talk to any of these clowns again, they're going to be fully masked up. And I refuse. I don't care if you've had 2 booster jabs. No, I want all 6 injections. I want paperwork or get fucked.
Or you're not coming in the house.
I'm scared of COVID. It's dangerous. I believe the mainstream media. I'm scared.
This word you keep using, psyop, I've never heard this. What it's short for psychological operations?
Correct.
Break that down. What exactly is a psyop?
Yeah, a psyop is the matrix as a whole. To say psychological operations are constant. They constantly decide how they want you to think and what they can do to make you believe that, right? There's a whole bunch of them they do. But it starts with tolerance. That's what I don't like about this whole guise of tolerance. It's not that I'm an intolerant person. It's not that I'm a bad person. It's not that I want to hurt other people. But when they keep pushing tolerance, what they're trying to say is have no standards or barriers or parameters for anything. That's what they want. You have to be tolerant. Tolerant of what? Tolerant of having your shop set on fire, tolerant of your kids being taught things you don't want, tolerant of crime, tolerant of your house being broken into. Like, tolerant of what? You're not allowed any hard barrier or any hard parameters as a man anymore. That's why they push tolerance. That's the beginning of it. That's the first stage. Once you accept absolute tolerance, well then it's the end, isn't it? I'm tolerant of everything. I'll eat the bugs. Sure.
You'll tolerate everything.
I'll tolerate everything. I'm tolerant. Sure. So when I say things like I'm intolerant of certain things and people think that's bad, no, you need to have standards and parameters. And that's one of the reasons they also attack me. I say that men should be allowed to have standards and parameters in a relationship and in their lives. We should be allowed to decide who we want to marry, and we should have standards for her. They have standards for us. We should allow ourselves to have standards for her. We should have standards in what we'll accept from a government and standards in what we'll accept from a police force. We should have standards as men. But they're trying to erode all of that, because once that's gone, then your brain is completely empty. And then once your brain's empty, they can just plug in the slave program, and then it's over, right? You're a tolerant person. You're a tolerant person. Good. You're a good slave. Slaves are exceptionally tolerant.
So the shirt you wear is what? Escape the slave mind?
Resist the slave.
Resist the slave mind. What does that mean exactly?
It's a better word, resist.
Resist.
Right? But I want to do this before we get into, because we got 5 hours, guys. We got plenty of time to get into a lot of different topics. So one, I do want to talk about BBC.
Yeah.
The handling of the interview, I want to get your thoughts on it. I know there's been reactions, but I want to go a little bit deeper into it.
Yeah.
Because I want to compare how your start with the interview with BBC started versus Philip Schofield versus Musk. I got all the first questions. We'll cover that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about media. I want to talk about your evolution of your faith,
Yeah.
atheist, Christian, Muslim,
Yeah.
and then some of the things that's going on with politics right now. You know, maybe a little bit of Romania, you know, Trump. We'll cover what you're talking about with different things. It's funny you're saying monopoly on power. If you abuse it, now YouTube's turning around and saying, hey, you can talk about the election. We're no longer going to give the strike. So that doesn't work forever. First thing I want to talk about, I think the audience would like to know, for you and Tristan, 92 days in the dungeon, you know, you're in jail,
Yep.
your experience in there, we keep hearing about it, we read about it, but what was it like for you guys being in there?
So I'll start by saying, and I have to make this clear, that the staff in the jail were exceptionally nice to me. They were very apologetic. The vibe was apologetic. Nobody was really treating me like a criminal. There were a few guys who were icy cold, I guess you could call them. They like to think of themselves as professional, but they were just inhuman. But over time, they warmed up, and I was exceptionally nice also to all the staff. Jail was terrible. I'm going to start by saying jail was terrible, and I was miserable inside of the jail cell. It's a good thing depression isn't real, because I would have been depressed. But I think in life that you get what you give, and I wanted to feel happier, so I tried my very best to make people happy. So when the old lady would bring me my food, I would sit and say, oh, this is the best food I've ever had. I've never had food this good. Did you cook this? I thought yesterday was the best, but you managed to surpass it again. How'd you do it? What's the magic ingredient? And I ended up making friends with them. Like I had grandmas in there, the old ladies cooking the food. And by trying to make people happy and smile all the time, I started to feel a lot happier. But it's kind of scary. And I think the scariest thing about jail was the uncertainty of it all. If they would have said to me, you're in jail for 92 days, or even 5 years, you got 5 years, cool, I do my time. But when you're nabbed and thrown in a cell without charge, you're like, well, how long, is this my life? Is this it now? Is this the end of the story? I'm just in this cell. And I was picked up on 29th of December. I went through this quick court case. Like I said, I'm inside of the jurisdiction of Romania, so I have to be very careful with what I say because the case is ongoing and we're in Romania and I can't leave Romania. But obviously Romanian court is in Romanian by law. So you're marched into this room, everyone speaks a language you don't understand for 15 minutes, and then you're marched off to jail. You're like, what even happened? What even happened to me? And they said, oh, here's the paper that explains it. I was like, that's in Romanian. And they said, oh, don't worry, you'll get a translation to English by law. I was like, okay, that's fine. But because I was picked up on the 29th of December and there was New Year's Eve and holidays, it was 2 weeks before I even knew why I was in jail. 2 solid weeks I'm in jail. No one told me in English why I'm in jail. I had no idea what the charge.
Can they do that?
By law, you get it on the piece of paper in English, but there's translation, it's holiday, we need to find a translator, there's a delay.
And you speak zero Romanian.
Zero. So they said, oh yeah, human trafficking. I'm like, what do you mean human trafficking? Who? When? What? What is this? Took 2 weeks before I finally got a piece of paper, and then I realized what garbage it truly was. I mean, I knew it was garbage, but I was like, this is complete garbage.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have endless stories from jail. It was certainly... I don't think jail teaches you much new. What it does is confirm everything you already know. It confirms everything you know about the reality of the outside world, that you need to be physically strong so that you're not attacked by others, and mentally strong so you're not attacked by yourself. You learn who's on your side and who isn't. You learn who's a coward and who's not. You learn who's an opportunist and who isn't. Your circle, you certainly learn a lot about the people around you when you go to a jail cell, that's for sure. But I remember it was New Year's Eve. When I was first picked up on the 29th of December, I was very sure I'd be out in 24 hours. I was like, there's no way they're going to keep me. For what? Like, this doesn't make sense. So finally New Year's Eve rolls around, and I'm sitting in the jail cell by myself. And in Romanian jail, you don't leave the room. It's not like an American jail where there's a yard or anything. You're stuck in the room. It's 3 by 4, and that's your existence. You just stay in the room.
Are you by yourself?